GAC family, welcome to today's devotional video. We will be doing the parable of the rich fool, and we'll be reading from Luke 12:13 to 21. Now before we begin, there are two things that I would like to point out here. Is that number one, God is not against the rich, but He warns about being a foolish rich. What does that mean? So that's something that we'll be looking into in the parable. Number two, being rich, yes, in this context of the parable, has to do with materialistic things, but it's also things that are often distracting us away from God. Something that we're always chasing or not having enough. For example, like perhaps your status of your social or business life, or the need to be best in everything for your own glory and not for God's glory. Okay. Again, don't get me wrong. We should indeed give our very best for everything that we do, but always remember that we're doing it to glorify God's name. And if God wants, if we plan our future, focus solely just on ourselves and not on God or others, that's an example of being a rich fool. Right. Okay, so let me just set the scene of when this parable took place. Jesus was actually teaching to a large group of people, and He was warning them about hypocrisy and also teaching them to fear God. When suddenly this man appeared from the crowd, obviously super distracted and wasn't even listening to what Jesus was teaching, and started asking Jesus to solve a family dispute over the family inheritance. So reading from Luke 12:13 onwards, it says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge and arbiter between you?" Then He said to them, "Watch out, be on guard against all kind of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." Now this man was obviously very distracted from God's teaching, right? And that's how we can be sometimes. For example, we can be very present in church physically, but as the speaker is teaching and or speaking about the word for that day, our thoughts are wandering away. We allow ourselves to be distracted by things, whether it's by work or by studies, and we don't realize that we're actually putting God in the back seat. Because, for example, if you say that somebody is important in your life, if you bring that person out for a dinner, for example, you shouldn't be on your phone when you're with the person when you're having dinner with that important person, because that really shows that whatever that was on your phone or whatever that is distracting you is far more important than the person who is right in front of you. And this man, in the similar position, obviously couldn't care less about what Jesus was teaching at that time, and just wanted his issues to be settled by Jesus. So he came to Jesus, or he came to that teaching just because he had a problem that he wanted to be solved, right? And what was Jesus's reply? Again, in verse 14, Jesus said, "Man, who appointed me a judge and an arbiter between you?" Then He said to them, "Watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." Now, I believe that Jesus could have easily settled that issue, but He also knew that the heart of this man was not at the right place. So no matter what he said, this, which would probably be fair to all parties, will still be displeasing to this man because of his greed and his desire to want more. So Jesus went on to tell about the parable of the rich fool. In verse 16, He said, He told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and I will store my surplus grain. And I'll tell to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God." Now, in this parable, this rich man assumes that his life only needs to be consist of abundance of things in terms of possessions. So his crops, and he thinks that that is all he needs for his soul for the many years to come. Now, this does not mean that we don't save for our future, but it means to be of a good steward. Remember that God is the one who entrusted us with our wealth, our health, and our family. But it is not for the purpose of distracting us away from Him. But instead, if anything, it should bring us closer to God. How? By not being selfish with time, with money, with love. Know that the money that has been given to you is not solely for yourself, it's not solely for your purpose, but it is to serve, is to give back, and for the glory of God. We were not put in this world for just me, myself, and I, right? But for the purpose of others, and also to glorify His name. In Proverbs 18:20, it says, "A faithful person will be richly blessed, but one eager to get rich will not go unpunished." Because we have to remember that when we die, we'll never know when that will be, right? The only thing that is going to go with us is our spirit man, not the money that you have stored up. The thing that you will want to hear Jesus when He meets you in heaven is Him saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant," because He's definitely not going to ask, "So how much money did you make on earth?" Right? As I was preparing for this video, Nathan saw that I was doing the parable of the rich fool, and we had a discussion about what it means, what does it mean to be a rich fool. So I asked him, what in his thought, what does a rich fool mean? And this is his answer, and I'm going to sum up today's devotional video with the 4 answers that he gave me. All right. Number 1, he said, don't look down on others just because you have money. Or in other words, don't even oppress others just to be rich. Okay. Number 2, he said, don't be stingy. He obviously meant with money, but I think it's more than that. It's also with your time, with your love for others. All right. Number 3, he said, you can't bring money to heaven. For that, you can't bring anything for that matter except for your spirit man. All right. And number 4, he said, always put God first. All right. And in fact, if you read further up in Luke 12, 8-9, it says, I tell you, whoever publicly acknowledges me before others, the Son of Man will also acknowledge before the angels of God. But whoever disowns me before others will be disowned before the angels of God. So, family of FGA, again, I don't think God has something against the rich, but to always remember that we have been put in this world for a purpose, and whatever that God has blessed us with, it is not solely just for ourselves. It is meant for us to serve Him and to use it for the purpose of His kingdom. All right. I hope you have been blessed by today's devotional video, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you.